Good morning. Today we are starting chapter 5 and we will be working with decimals. So we are done with division for this part of the chapter and we are going to move on. And today our lesson is on rounding decimals. So Mrs. Bliley quickly just wants to show you a place value chart. I know you know your place values of your numbers to the left side of the decimal, but Mrs. Bliley is just going to review both quickly. So if you can see, we are introducing our decimal point. It is not a dot, it is a decimal point. Okay, so to the left we have our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. I know you know that. Now what we're introducing is what is to the right of our decimal. We have tens, hundredths, and thousands. Okay, so I want you to look at this. On the left side it starts with ones, but on the right side it starts with tenths. Something really important also to keep in mind is everything to the right side of our decimal has the THS, the at the end. So that's also important. We will be referring to this chart throughout our lesson today. So this is just an overview of our place value chart. Now Mrs. Bliley wants to talk a little bit about rounding. Think of it as a rounding roller coaster. Remember from last year, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We keep it the same, or in this case, or what we're going to learn today is we're going to drop it off. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we're going to bump it up. Remember from last year. So those are just simple rounding rules that we have reviewed before last year in math as well. The rounding roller coaster is just a visual, and we might refer back to this during our lesson or in future lessons. So we are going to get started with our lesson today. Mrs. Bliley has, oops, wrong one, a different format, but it is the same as the pages that I ripped out for you. So first we're going to start with example 1. We are in lesson 5.1. Andrew's laptop has a processor with a speed of 2.8 gigahertz. Round the processing speed of the laptop to the nearest whole number. Okay, so we're looking at whole number. That's important to keep in mind. Today we are working a lot with place value. So that is really important. I'm going to underline that. I'm also going to underline 2.8. So the first thing we're going to do is create a visual for ourselves. We have a number line right here, 2 and a 3. We have to think about, where does 2.8 fall on our number line? Okay, well, if we just know by rounding, we are looking at the tenths right here. We're looking at the tenths to see if we need to round up or round down our 2. So just by your prior knowledge, you might already know what to do, but Mrs. Bliley is going to show you a visual just so we are clear. So if we make this number line, our 2.8 will be right here. Now, just by looking at our visual, we can tell that 2.8 is closer to 3 or 2. I'm going to say 3. If you already knew to round up or bump it up for your 8, you already know that 2.8 is closer to 3 compared to 2. So our answer is 3. 2.8 will round to 3. Let's look at example 2. It says underline the digit in the tenths place. We're going to underline our 7 because if we look at our chart, we have decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. To the right of my decimal, my first number is my tenths. So we are looking at our 7 is in the tenths place, and we are looking at the number in our hundredths place, which is a 3. Okay, so the number in the tenths place is a 7. We are looking to see, is 3 smaller or bigger than 5? So we need to think in our mind. 3, do we leave it the same? Or in this case, we're going to drop it off? Or do we bump it up? 3 is less than 4. So we are going to, or less than 5. So we are going to actually drop it off. So with decimals and whole numbers, like last year, we kept it the same. But with decimals, we're actually just going to drop off that number. So we're going to bring our answer down here. We have 46.7 tenths, and we completely and totally just drop off this 3. That is how we round. for decimals. So 46 decimal 73 hundredths rounds to 46 decimal 7 tenths. Mrs. Wiley's going to do a few more examples with you. Number 1 for guided practice, 8 decimal 74 hundredths to the nearest 1. Underline the digits in the ones place. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my chart again just in case I need it. I'm going to underline my number in the ones place. Okay, ones is right here, so that is the first number to the left of my decimal. I'm going to underline my 8. I'm going to be looking at my number in the tenths column or my 7. Okay. So I have a 7. 5 or up, we bump it up. We are rounding to the nearest whole number or the ones place. Mrs. Wiley keeps losing that chart. Okay, so we are rounding up. We're going to bump it up because it's a 7. So is it closer to 8 or 9? If we're bumping it up, it's going to be 9. So 8 decimal 74 hundredths rounds to the nearest 1 place value to 9. Really quick, Mrs. Wiley wants to play a fun little game with you. This is just classifying or determining or identifying what our numbers are. Are they hundredths, tenths, or thousandths? Okay, let's look. We have 0 decimal 75 hundredths. Okay, so 7 is going to be in the tenths column. My 5 is going to be in the hundredths column. Let's check our answer. Woo, we got it. Let's do a few more. Okay, I have 0 decimal 56 hundredths. My 5 is in the tenths column. My 6 is in the hundredths column. Ooh, that was close. Do you see I almost picked hundredths? Hundreds. Now, key thing to remember that I talked a little bit about in the lesson, all place values to the right of the decimal have the THS at the end of it. Great job. Let's do one more. I have 0 decimal 65 hundredths. My 6 is in the tenths place and my 5 is in the hundredths. Nice work. Okay. So Mrs. Wiley wants to do a few more examples with you, and then I will have you do some practice problems on your own and submit them to our Google Classroom. Okay, round each decimal to the place indicated. Okay, so we have our decimal here, and then we have the place value that we are rounding it to. So we have 5 decimal 476 thousandths. Okay, let's bring our chart out again. Which number sorry, one second. Which number is in the hundredths column? Okay, that's purple. So we have 1, 2. So our 7 is in the hundredths column. So we're going to underline our 7 and we're looking at our 6. Okay. So 6, do I bump it up or do I drop it off in this case? I think we're going to bump it up. So we're going to write 5. Because remember, all of this stays the same except for the place value that we are changing. So we have 7 and 4 going to be the same. Then we have 7. We're going to bump it up. So if we bump up 7, it becomes an 8. So my answer is 5 decimal 48 hundredths. Nice work. Let's look at number 3. Woo, big number. I have 983 decimal 625 thousandths. Okay, so I'm looking in the hundredths again. So I'm going to look at my chart. I see the decimal hundredths is 2 spots over. So I'm going to count 1, 2, and I'm going to underline my 2. I will be looking at my 5. Okay, all of these numbers are the same. This is going to type. So I'm going to have 983, oops, 3 decimal. My 6 is going to stay the same. So now I'm looking at my hundredths place, and this is the place value that I'm changing. Okay, so I have a 5. Do I bump it up or drop it off? I'm going to bump it up. So if I bump up my 5, it becomes a 6. So our answer for number 3 is 980. Oh, wait, sorry. 983 decimal 66 hundredths. Sometimes that's tricky. Let's look at number 4, and then I'm going to have you do the rest on your own. We have 28 decimal 6 tenths. We're looking in the ones column. Okay, let's look at my chart. The ones column is one place to the left of the decimal. I'm going to underline my 8, and I am looking at my 6. So I am rounding to the ones place value. So that means my answer is going to be a whole number and will not have a decimal. So let's look at this. Okay, I have 28 decimal 6 tenths. I'm going to be looking at my 8 and my 6. So my 6, do I bump it up or drop it off? 6 is higher than 5, so I'm going to bump it up. Okay, so if I'm bumping it up, my 8 becomes a 9. So our answer is 29 for number 4. Okay, so Mrs. Bliley did a few problems with you. I hope you come to our live lesson and we'll review this again. This can be just for a reteach, or if you need to look back on the lesson, or if you miss and are not able to come to our live session. So I'd like you to finish the rest of this worksheet on this page. So I would like you to do numbers 5 through 13 and submit it onto Google Classroom for me. If you have any questions, please come to your support time at 12:15. Have a great day.